All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Facebook, and welcome to another episode of the SITREP. I am Brian from Operational Speed Supply, and I'll be your host this week. A little something different. I'm excited for this week's guest. He's a fellow soldier stationed here at Fort Bragg, fellow racer, car enthusiast. There's nothing that the guy doesn't race. He's someone I call a friend, and he's raced on TV. He's won national championships. Race to support wounded warriors, and everything in between. Now he's running a Legends Series in and around Fayetteville, North Carolina at the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. And our guest tonight is Adam Benaway. Adam, welcome, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Brian. How are you doing? Welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you joining us. Looking forward to talking to you. Want to cover a few topics tonight as we discussed, and hopefully we get some interaction from the audience here and get some good feedback. So first thing I want to talk about, obviously I mentioned you're a soldier. So how long have you been in the Army?
So I hit my 19-year mark in about 1 month, and I'm starting the retirement process. But I've been here at Fort Bragg for all of those 19 years.
Wow. One duty station other than deployments.
6 deployments and one-year stint over in Korea, which was shorter than most deployments. So it kind of just worked out.
Wow. Now, you're a PSYOP soldier. Did you come in as PSYOPs or did you convert or what?
Oh, no. So in 2003, when I came in right out of high school, what got me was the 19 Delta reconnaissance scout video where they showed guys trucking through the woods and like this cool little off-road buggy and dirt bikes, which was right about the time that they transitioned from all that stuff. I remember saying, I don't really want to go do infantry stuff. My recruiter talked me out of being a mechanic. I saw the Cav Scout video and riding dirt bikes through the woods, and I was sold, not realizing how closely related the job is to infantry and combat arms. So came in as a 19 Delta, came right to Fort Bragg, Christmas Eve of 2003 to be exact. And the rest is kind of history. Did 2 deployments as a 19 Delta, back to back, a 15-month and then a 12-month. And then in 2012 transitioned, went through selection to become psychological operations.
Nice. So both of those deployments to Iraq?
Iraq, yep. All my, I haven't been to Afghanistan. It's been all Iraq. And then we did OIFP in the Philippines. I've done some stints in embassy work in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, and then Korea.
I hear that's Maldives is a terrible, terrible place to be.
It's horrible. You gotta wake up and take a jet boat to your office at the American Center. 5-star resorts are just, terrible. You get sand everywhere and sharks out your front door.
Yeah, that's not to mention the per diem is probably pretty decent too. So,
well, that is one place, the Maldives, where normally you can spare some change on per diem. Maldives, absolutely not. Breakfast at any hotel, $30-$40. So wow. That is one place where per diem matches the cost of living.
No kidding. Gotcha. So 1 year to go, or 13 months to go. You're probably pretty excited, huh?
I am quite nervous. I've got many options that I would like to do. Nothing is concrete yet. I have my number one option, probably working up with RFH Tactical, which we talked about earlier. Just kind of looking for property in a home, and that's also going to help decide where I go. Talked to a few people out at Charlotte Motor Speedway with the Ford Performance Driving School. That's kind of a option. I'd like for it to be based around some kind of driving, mobility, instructor job, something I'm pretty passionate about.
Well, and something you're damn good at. So speaking of the Ford Driving School, do you know Trip Robinson by chance?
I know Trip. Yeah, he does some of the, what's it called? XX speed events where they take guys around the track, take them around the track in like Porsches, exotics, Ferraris. Yeah, so I know him and his father, I believe, right?
Mills, yeah.
Yep.
Tripp's also part of. I think he works for Ford Performance Driving as well.
Yeah, so he probably works out there with Dan Buckle, one of our mutual friends.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, look, man, I believe you definitely got the pedigree to do that. Hopefully that works out for you. That would be, it definitely would be a good gig. I know Tripp's a big fan of it, really likes it.
Yeah, I know they travel a lot too. So that's one thing that I'm not necessarily, I will do, but being gone in the military so much, being away from family, it's also something I don't want to continue doing after, the 20-year mark. So that has some play in where I'm going to work. There's always like traveling opportunities, and as much as I would like to do it, and it would probably elevate that your status in kind of the automotive world or in the network of instructors and driving event opportunities, I'm not dead set on being gone for months at a time or always on the road.
No, I don't blame you. It's enough of that. We did enough of that when we had to. We're not going to volunteer to do it for sure. I had an opportunity to go overseas. Potential opportunity to go overseas, making probably $250,000, and I didn't even entertain it. It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah, at this point, kind of family first.
Right.
We've done our duty and our tours and on the go all the time and living out of rucksacks and duffel bags. That's why.
And I damn sure didn't want to go to the Middle East. So,
all right, of all places, that's the last place I'd re-volunteer to go to.
Here's a good comment from my wife. Let's see if I can get this to pop up. Oh, let's see. It doesn't pop up. My wife says, "Oh, there it is. Yes, on staying home close to family once you retire." So, she's all about it. I knew not to even entertain that idea. So, but anyway, so tell me, man, how did you get into racing? I mean, did you grow up racing go-karts, dirt bikes, and stuff, or what?
I never really formally raced anything until after my first deployment. But I'll back up. Kind of grew up around snowmobiles, four-wheelers. Did a little bit of BMX racing. My uncle raced dirt track when I was young, and I remember helping him unload the car, and check stagger on the tires. But I never got to formally race. So after my first deployment, a very good mutual friend, I think you met him before I met you, John Wolf. Yeah, so we came back from our first deployment. I just bought a WRX STI, sight unseen. And at first it was my baby, and then I got brave and started taking it off in the dirt, down the trails, and all that stuff. And then a rallycross popped up about an hour north of Fayetteville. And my first sanctioned organized event was a rallycross. And I let John drive the car, and of course he's like shocked and awe that I'm just offering my car for him to drive around a dirt field. So that was the very first event, was a rallycross. I did a couple of those, then did our second deployment. Felt like I was really serious about racing. That second deployment, I was building like what I would want as a monster rallycross car, like an older chassis with a newer modern motor, and I had all these plans. And really what I did is just come back and buy the exact same car again. But there were few events in between those deployments. I'd do like 3 or 4, deploy, get 1 or 2 in, and then deploy again. So I really didn't get serious until my motor blew up while I was in BNOC, and a shop out in Charlotte, Draco, which is owned by former NASCAR driver Barry Bodine. He did some engine work on my car, replaced the engine and turbo, and then offered me kind of like a low-key sponsorship, which kind of unheard of at the time, not necessarily a common thing. But he offered to pay my entry fees and give me a set of Hoosier tires and throw some parts on the car. So I ran a couple years with Barry at Draco, and then that kind of opened the door to do the Are You Faster Than a Redneck show. And up until then, I had only done maybe less than a dozen events, and they were all autocross, and 3 rally crosses.
So it's kind of a good transition. And Are You Faster Than a Redneck? That's obviously that was road course style stuff, right?
Correct, and that was my first time ever on a road course. I had done nothing but Dodge cones before that. Never done any kind of wheel-to-wheel racing.
So what kind of cars did you have to race and outrun to get to the finals?
So the premise of the show was Are You Faster Than a Redneck? And they kind of built this perception of these, farmers with their old muscle cars, much like your beautiful Camaro. And but they were mostly year one cars. Brian Finch, that was the redneck I lost to. And in his, now it's a white car, right? Or is it silver?
Yeah, it was silver at the time. It's white with American flag over top of it.
Right. Yeah, that's right. An amazing car. Awesome. And it was kind of sponsored by BFG in year one. They put it together. They had their traveling guys, Childress out in St. Louis from Ford Archway Mustang or Gateway Mustang. Okay. He was out there. The dudes from year one, a bunch of the BFG traveling guys that had that tour going on back then.
Yeah, JB Granger was out there.
Yeah,
Bill Howe.
Yep. Yeah, all those guys. You know more than I. But yeah, so it was these old junky muscle cars versus modern imports. I had my pretty stock STI, and at the time, it was when I was running those Hoosier race tires. And about a week before the show, they emailed us saying, "Hey, we can't run race tires. You have to have street tires." And at the time, I didn't really have my car set up for street tires or have a good set of street tires. I only had the tires I drove to work on. So I had to borrow some. And they weren't optimal, but to be honest, those cars, I was outclassed by most of those cars anyway. Twice the horsepower. The wheels, they were running like 315s on all 4 corners. I think I had 255s. And it was fun. It was a blast. Brian was really cool. Learned that he was also in the military prior. So we caught up a bunch on that. And, the year one guy, I want to say Bill Howell, right? Is he the year one guy?
No, I'm not sure who the year one guy was, but I don't think it was Bill. I don't think Bill had anything to do with year one.
Maybe it wasn't Bill. He was the white beard guy. He was like the general manager at year one at the time. And he told me after the show, kind of offset, he's like, "Hey, if they do a season 2 and you build a muscle car, you bring a muscle car back, we'll bring you on as a redneck." And and he straight up offered me, he's like, "I'll give you like $10,000 store credit right now. You send me a picture of a car you're building, and I'll give you credit right now." Like, so that was really cool. Those guys are awesome. And like Brian said in the show, just coming together, racing, talking cars, having fun. It doesn't matter whether you're imports or muscle cars, supercars, or rat rods. Cars usually bring people together, just like any other positive, engaging event.
Yeah, when I was out in Tennessee a couple of weeks back, I had the opportunity to hang out with Brian a little bit, and we got talking about it. And he had a lot of good things to say about you. He enjoyed hanging out with you and during that show. So, and it sounds like you talked to some of those guys, man. It sounds like they had a hell of a time filming that show. Had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and even though all the smack talking that was going on, the rednecks lined up. And they were like, "Hey, Adam, we're racing against you, but we'd like to thank you for your service." And, good guys, because we hung out off set and they had, little snack bars and everything set up. And the producer, just picture I think it's Tom Cruise plays the producer in Tropical Thunder, right? You know how he's very arrogant and he's just walking around strutting his stuff and like bossing people around? That's exactly what the producer was like. Straight Hollywood. Like, if there was a picturesque producer, that's who he was. Like, he's up in the tower at Carolina Motorsports Park. He's like, "Don't even do it. It's not gonna make the cut. Don't even do it. Don't even try." Because they're setting up this, like, everyone shaking my hand, thanking me for my service, which was humbling. And as you know, as a service member, sometimes often awkward. So
Especially when it's not that they make a spectacle of it, but when it's kind of made a spectacle,
right,
it's if it's
correct,
just if it's offhand, that's one thing. But if it's
right. And it was funny
staged,
because the producer, they hated my audition tape. They're like, so I tried out for it, kind of made the first cut, and then they were like, "Hey, send us a video of you smack talking the rednecks and what you're gonna say when you beat them." And I'm not a good scripted person. I can fly off the seat of my hip pants. I can smack talk like naturally,
yeah.
but I'm like, I set up a video camera. I'm like, "Hey, your American car sucks. I'm gonna beat you with my import." Like, horrible, flat. Like, they were like, come on, you got to do something. We need something from you." And I'm like, I'm just not good scripted. But then I get on the show, and everything on the show that I fired back at him was completely unscripted. And they love the smack talk. And like when that dude in the Mustang almost hit me, and I felt bad afterwards, but I'm like, I know what it was. It was your fat gut. You couldn't turn the wheel. Like, and then I felt like I went too far, and I'm like, sorry.
Like now I just insulted the guy.
Yeah, and then Jason, yeah, exactly. And then Jason Childress is actually a really nice dude. And actually, one time when I thought I was going to get stationed out in Leonardwood to be a driving instructor out there, right before retirement, he offered me a job at Gateway Classic Mustang, which is right down the road from Leonardwood.
Nice. All right.
But it was good. We made a lot of connections. It was a great time. I learned a lot about racing just in those 3 sessions I had out on the track. If you watch the video, I actually tried jumping the gun on the final race against Brian because I had no chance. I was hoping we'd do a standing start, which I maybe could have got him. But I mean, his car at 600 horsepower is just going to walk the dog on a rolling start. And so I was ready. I was like brake boosting, and I even jumped the gun so much that I got out ahead of him, realized I was way ahead, and then hit the brakes. And as soon as I hit the brakes, they threw the flag. And you can see me, I'm like, in the video.
It's bad timing.
If I was smart and going to do it all over again, I would have jumped the start and then just stayed in it and made them stop me. But you live and you learn.
Right. No, that's cool. And you know what came out of it? It was cool seeing you on there, and it was a little bit of pride, because I was like, one of me, right? It was a paratrooper out there.
I think that actually what started our conversation and meeting each other. I got a random AKO email from you.
Yep, that's exactly right. Like a damn creeper.
Yeah, right. I know. Look where it comes out. While I was in the Philippines, it was my first PSYOP deployment, and it was funny because I had my wife set up her phone on the stool in the living room, and I FaceTimed her from the Philippines, and then I streamed. One of the guys in my team was like tech nerd, and he was able to stream my FaceTime to the big TV in our team house in the southern Philippines. So we watched the show live from the Philippines because I aired it right after selection and after language. Got to my first unit, and then I was out the door like 6 months later I think it was February when it aired. So I watched it live from the Philippines. You hit me up. And then I believe that's also where you met John Wolf and that other guy that I can't think of his name.
Yeah, shortly after. I think I met them in
Virginia, right?
Yeah, spring of 13 in Virginia. Yeah, at Mike Johnson's thing.
Yep. Evo School. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So from there, man, then you really progressed quickly because you got into running the spec Scions, right? The FRS.
Yes, I did. I did one after that Philippines deployment. I bought a little Miata, which I thought was the best training tool because it was a low-powered, no ABS, no traction control, nothing car on like a really skinny tire. Had some mild success with that car. It was actually the wrong car for the class. Me and John drove it for a season together. Had fun. And then I went 2.5 years without a car. When I went to Korea for a year, didn't have a car. I sold it the night before I flew out. And then when I got back from Korea, immediately deployed to Iraq. And that's when I bought the spec car. And it was John's old car, actually. He drove it in a different class, but it was also perfect for the spec class. And so in 2018, they came up with the spec Scion BRZ class where everyone ran the same crap tire, same off-the-shelf shocks, same sway bar, and that's about it. And I came back from like a 18-month, 2-year hiatus of autocrossing, and then did 2 local events, and then went out to nationals to try my luck. And I was fortunate enough to go out to SCCA Solo Nationals and pull away the first Solo Spec Coupe championship. And I don't think anyone saw it. Maybe John and a few other guys who knew, because I never really did any big tours or big events. It was all local, in between deployments, catch a couple events here, a couple there. And then that year it was just surreal. It was almost like a kind of dreamland. Didn't feel real because since me and John got into autocross in 2007, we were like, we think we can win. Never been proven. We just had that confident feeling that like we can do this. And that year he got second at nationals and I won my class because he drove with Bill in the Corvette.
Oh, yeah.
And I was actually talking about it today. He basically coned away a national championship, and we thought how perfect that would have been for us to both win our national championship the same year.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, because we're friends outside of racing. We deployed those 2 deployments, 27 months together. We lost many friends during those deployments. So it's kind of, we'll just say it's kind of a little bit of a bromance.
Right.
And we were
I was going to go with fun, but whatever you like.
I mean, whatever. I mean, I'll call it what it is. I mean, we're closer than just like friends at the track. We truly are. Our daughters are born on the same day. We both found out our wives were pregnant on the same day. He was in my wedding, I was in his. It's just, it's more than just racing. It's a genuine like friendship.
Right.
So, and I'll be deployed and see the results of his runs or whatever, and maybe see his video, and I would critique him on his runs while I was in Korea or the Philippines. Never walked the course, and I'd give him feedback, and it would help him. And we had many off-hour phone calls, him driving back from nationals or a national tour, and just kind of hashing over, recapping the event.
Well, a lot of people could say that 2018 was a fluke, but you went back out there and backed it up in 19.
Yeah, so and there were people immediately after the event, because on day 1, so the premise of the class was they want a class where the top 20 is like within a second, because the other classes you can have like A Street Camaros, or I'm sorry, you can have A Street where you have some Corvettes, C5, C6, and a Porsche, and they're relatively the same speed, but they're different. They're absolutely different. And it may come down to a thousandth of a second or a tenth here or there, but it's not a true spec class, because some guy may have $800 shocks and you have $1,200 shocks, or fresh tires or not. This was a true spec class, and they just wanted it to be like cutthroat. Like every run, someone could just rack off a half a second and go straight to the top of the leaderboard. And it truly was. From second to 20th, it was a 1.1 margin.
Wow.
Except my margin from second to first was 1.3, and people just could not believe that. A lot of it to do with it's a spec class that's not supposed to be, as well as they didn't know who I was. If some really hot shoe went out there and did it, I think we talked about it, Tom O'Gorman, it would be like, oh yeah, that's what Tom's going to do.
Right.
But because I caught a lot of people off guard,
Like, who the hell's this guy?
I mean, there was literally some of the local guys started a hashtag, "Who is Adam Benaway?" I mean, it was fun. There was a few people who weren't even in the top 10 or top 5 that were just like bashing my name, saying I cheated, saying I was running a tune, all these things, and that really rained on my like first national championship. So I can genuinely say I was a little like bitter about it. Instead of embracing the moment, I had to like listen to this chatter. And since you're a football fan, you'll understand this. He was like, "Hey, you know what? John told me this." He goes, "You know what? Clemson doesn't worry about Wake Forest."
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So that kind of brought some perspective to like, why do you care? Why do you care what people think? Just go out and do it. So I kind of broke the ice with the first one, and then wanted to do it again to back it up, and I did exactly that. I went out and won by 1.3 seconds. But this year, the first year, I wouldn't say there was a lack of talent, but people were hesitant to go to the class. They weren't sure how it was going to be. Maybe I stirred that up a little bit. I don't know. There were more previous national championships in that first year that tried this SSC, because this was like the ultimate autocross challenge, you know, with a spec car and everything. But then the next year, people were coming out the woodworks. People with 6, 7 national championships trying to run, and I did it again. And then I kind of felt like, sold the car.
Like I proved all I need to prove.
Kind of.
I did it once,
And in between that, I ran out to. I think you've been there before. The National Corvette Museum that's out by Campbell, Bowling Green.
Yeah, I actually haven't been there, but no, I will get there this year though.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous track, and I did the first year of the SCCA time trials, which is basically a time attack. Kind of like what the Ultima Track Car Challenge does. They do a track event.
Our guy Hector, he said I had a BRZ at the time, and I remember the hashtag.
Oh yeah, who is that?
His name's Hector. He's stationed out of Campbell.
Okay,
he's got a pretty sick Miata.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So after the 18, I got the invite to the time trials because my house just got hit by that hurricane that came through in 18. Was it Florence? I think Florence was the second one.
He says he was there. He crashed his blue TS. You remember
that? At time trial nationals?
Yeah.
What was it?
Blue TS.
Yeah,
I don't know. He said he was there when you were there. So that's kind of cool.
I know there was an RX-7, a really gorgeous FD RX-7 that got taken out by a dude who didn't know the track configuration, and the RX-7 was tracking out, and the dude was on the opposite side of the track thinking we were doing a horseshoe configuration. So he went from the left side of the track and just cut right in front of this RX-7, and the RX-7 had to dump it off into the grass and put it into the wall.
Yeah. He said he had a BRZ TS, a blue one.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch the BRZ TS. Yeah.
He didn't pick that, so.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Cool, man. Yeah. Well, so yeah, 2 national championships, and then you found something that's probably bigger than any of us, and in the Racing for Heroes stuff. How'd you get involved with those guys?
So the introduction. Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, let's if you would, because you probably know better than I do. Tell our audience a little bit about RFH and what they do.
So Racing for Heroes is 100% nonprofit. To give you the bottom line up front, it's to help prevent and reduce veteran suicide. However, we're just not out there saying, hey, donate to prevent veteran suicide. Studies have shown, people have spoken, there's more to just suicide than, certain things. You got to give somebody a sense of purpose. They have to feel right, and their mind has to be right. So I break it down by pillars: physical health, mental health, and sense of purpose / employment. Founded by retired SF Warrant Mike Evok. He was part of a larger nonprofit that seemed to only take the kind of high vis veterans that needed help, something that seemed very self-benefiting to help them out. And he's like, this ain't right. There's more than just the guys that may be completely, immobilized, amputees, burn victims, whatever. And not that anyone's less than another. But he said it seemed like they were only focusing on the attention-grabbing veterans, if that makes sense. So he's like, I want to help anyone. Not all. You've heard the slogan, not all wounds are visible. With the interview we did with Cheryl's thing, like we know. And for those who don't, there's a lot of the veteran suicide comes from somebody who may not have been injured themselves, but have gone through a life-changing event that definitely changes their outlook and their sense of purpose, and a question, like I think you said in your interview, kind of like a survivor's guilt. So back that up to the pillars. Physical health, we have a wellness center at VIR, help guys get through service-related physical injuries. Right now we have a gym. However, we're in the works of building our own standalone wellness center that's also going to be ran by Dr. Camp, who's a retired SF guy, SF medic. He's going to run basically, I guess it's going to be more like an outpatient clinic where people can come for just general health and wellness. So physical, mental health, we have counselors, and these are mostly all active duty, so you can connect with them. They can have empathy with you, talk about your past experiences, your struggles, whatever's holding you down. And sometimes it's just good to get that off your shoulders, and also connect with other like-minded veterans that have gone through the same thing, because it helps you feel embraced, welcome, and included, kind of in a sense. A lot of the struggle is integrating back in society where, there's doubt. Do these people understand you? Do they know what you're going through, or what it may be like, without getting into detail? That's a big struggle for a lot of people that transition from military into the civilian world.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to how you got involved with them.
Yeah. In Korea, a fellow PSYOPer I was talking about cars and racing, and she's like, "Oh, my husband races, and he's linked up with Tony. I'm pretty sure you've met Tony Lacey,
Yeah.
rally car guy." Yep. So I got in touch with him, and I'm like, "This is awesome." I kind of went under Tony's wing for a while. He was like under kind of the RFH umbrella, but he does this thing called Rally for the Troops, right, which is under the same nonprofit. It's just a segment of it. We kind of have our different genres of racing, and his was Rally for the Troops. And I was into rally. So I got introduced to Mike, started volunteering at the events, running some of the outreach programs, doing the open house. And I believe right about the time, Cheryl was doing a lot of her Racing for Warriors events up there. Yeah. And it was just a perfect blend. And doing these events, giving veterans opportunity, at first, kind of sounds like a gimmick, but at first you're kind of like a customer of the organization, and that a receiver, being around other guys. But after a while, you start providing for other veterans coming in looking for that same thing that you may have been seeking. And so in the last 5 years, I've found that almost more rewarding in itself than, getting to experience it myself. Now, paying it forward to other veterans that are seeking that bond with other like-minded guys. And some of the coolest guys I met were, I met with the Operation North State guys that came up, Charlie, and all those guys that would come out, and they were repeat customers, and just the smiles on their face is more rewarding than, kind of getting that for myself. It's awesome giving it to others. So
Yeah, it's funny. That's when I really got to know the RFH guys, the Cheryl's events. They'd have their open house on every quarter and stuff, and
Yep.
It was great, man. They just being up there, hanging around those guys, and you mentioned Tony. I met Tony in 2006 in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I remember him saying you guys knew each other for a while.
And when I walked in, I'm standing in the back, and he's up there talking, and we hadn't seen each other in years, and his beard was bigger than mine is now. And he's looking at me, and I didn't really pay attention to it. And then the guy makes a beeline to me, and he gets right in my face. He's like, "Were you CA?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Were you civil affairs?" And I'm like, "I was." And he's like, "Man, it's Tony." And then it just clicked, and it was cool. It was great to see him again. And you talk about the smiles that we put on the faces, and it was an honor for me to give those guys and gals rides in the car. And I remember talking to some of them, and their stories, man, was it was gut wrenching to listen to some of their stories.
Yeah.
Not to get too deep into it, but one guy said that we were on assault one night, and the Chinook crew chief said, "We're on the ground, go." And they felt like he went first. He was a squad leader. He went first, and he fell, and his whole squad fell on top of him. They fell like 16 feet out of the back of this helicopter.
Because they were on the ground.
Because they were on the ground. They weren't on the ground, right? Just smashed him off, broke him all to pieces. And then I remember you remember Willie? The guy that was in the wheelchair?
Yeah.
The guy's in the wheelchair. They put him in Cheryl's car. He couldn't see. He had no idea what was coming. You get in this car, you know what's coming, right? You know what's coming, and it still can scare the hell out of you. But he couldn't see. He's like hanging out the window, just big old smile on his face, and that was the best. So
some of my best photos that I like standing there with two of the older vets, probably a generation or two older than us, and just laughing, cutting it up, having a good old time. And it's so cool how that outreach and also that genre of outreach just brings people together. And I think that model works for all type of veteran outreach programs, whether it's fishing, cars, you name it. If you have that model of connecting veterans and bringing them together in a positive, engaging environment, it gets that mind out of that, that dark void, which can often lead to other bad things.
That's right. So those were excellent events, and I look forward to I know Cheryl's got a busy schedule going on with what she's got going on now, so hopefully she gets those events back up there, and we can get back up. And
I was just thinking as we were talking about it, like she should definitely be a guest on here because she's kind of made waves in this kind of type of event. Although she's not a veteran herself, she was, a recipient of her brother, her dad, of seeing what they go through. So,
well, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, and I kick myself for not having thought of her as a guest. So,
I think you'd be very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out and talk to her. That would be awesome. So, why'd you get rid of? So you got rid of the Scion. And did you not race anything for a while?
I think I sold it in February and had my Legends car by March. It was very short-lived, being a void of a car. My actual plan was I was gonna buy. I found a Pontiac Solstice out in Charlotte, and the dude wanted like $4,500 and like 70,000 miles on it because the front bumper was beat up a little bit. And we were talking on Facebook Messenger. We got all the details we needed. We kind of planned for me to come get the car, and then he just straight up ghosted me.
Oh.
And I sold another car, which is one of two cars I regret selling. That little, I don't know if you ever saw the little 2-door Impreza coupe that I had, the little black one.
I saw
Maybe
I was looking
pictures or
at
videos.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw something you posted Facebook not long ago.
Yeah.
I regret selling this car.
Yep, that's exactly it. I practically gave that away because I had a big plan of getting that Solstice, making it a track car because it's got a little reliable motor, and potentially making it an RFH Champ car because during this time with the SSC car, we would go run Champ car with RFH, and that's a really cool experience too because the way I kind of describe it is an endurance team is much like a military operation where you have your different kind of tiers of, I don't want to say effort, but tiers of, we'll say aggression. You got your door kickers and then you got your drivers. So those are kind of like in parallel. And then you have your immediate support, which may be your pilots and your crew guys. And it just goes down the tier, which, people want to go do cool military operations, but they may not all be door kickers. But every role throughout that operation has a very important, has a role and an importance. Same thing on a race team. The dude filling the fuel in the car is just as crucial as the driver in some sense. Like you can make or break a whole race. So Champ Car and having an all military veteran team, we practically do drive rehearsals. We do PCCs, PCIs before every pit stop where you watch other race teams that are a bunch of lawyers that just, come together, buy a BMW and go racing, and they are just clueless on the pit wall. And it shows. Mike's like, we'll kill them every time. We'll crush them in pit stops. And we do.
You managed, you guys won that, right?
Oh, we won quite a few actually in that white Camaro. We never got an overall win. We got a second overall in a 14-hour race. We've had some top 10 at the VIR 24, which is genuinely a big race. You got guys from like Beamer World coming down, all these race shops that kind of just throw together some cars, big money teams, and to run top 10 overall in a 24-hour race. One, just to survive a 24-hour race is,
I was going to say that's probably more. It's more about surviving than it is
absolutely
speed, right?
Oh, absolutely. So if you think about it, let's say I'm racking off a second faster than you every lap. You're like, man, I can't keep up with this car. All it takes is one off that may slow him down for 30 seconds, and all 30 laps that he just did at 3 minutes a lap. So that's 10 hours of racing at 1 second faster, negated by having one off.
Wow.
I mean, if you really break it down like to that, that's they could be crushing you in the time, but all it takes is one spin, one bad pit stop, and especially on a big track like VIR where, a lap is 2:15, 2:20 if you're flying. So if they're making up a second and we're running for 24 hours, it doesn't take much to lose it all.
Yeah, that's crazy. So your roots started out kind of in the dirt with the rallycross, and now you're back running on the dirt again in the Legends cars.
I am, and I still say to this day, after about a season and a half, that the Legends car is the hardest learning curve that I've ever had.
Really?
I've been able to go from autocross cars to rallycross to road course racing I did stage rally right after I sold the BRZ. So at the same time that I had the right at the tail end before I sold the FRS And before I bought the Legends car, I linked up with Tony and I ran a stage rally down in South Carolina, which has also been on my to-do list, my bucket list for a long time.
Yeah.
And jumped right in that, got a podium right away, like a top 5 overall finish, second in class. Doing the Legends car, by far the steepest learning curve. There's people from all genres of sports, driving sports, that come drive a Legends car and immediately admit how hard they are to drive.
But you're getting there, because I've kind of followed what you've done, and I've come out and watched you a couple of times, and this last weekend you managed to come home fourth.
Yeah, so this season, kind of linking up with another veteran, Willie Ridenhour. He's like the Legends guru in the country, especially on dirt. He's my neighbor right down the road.
316 Motorsports.
316 Motorsports. Yep, that's it. Kind of a shameless plug. He sells all things car parts, kind of like OSS, mainly dirt track focused. But I've been working with him. We did the RFH Tactical, came on as a sponsor, and bought the new FC09 engine, which is the liquid cooled, fuel injected motor. And so this car is even more spec than that spec Scion that I had. So much where, like, your setup, you can't even change it beyond certain parameters. It's about as spec as it gets, which is one reason why I bought it. One reason why I chose that car in dirt track racing. I kind of made the decision I'm going to go dirt track racing because it's literally right out my back window. The family can come, and it's just kind of one more check in the box of things I want to try, do well, and just kind of add to my cliche saying of add to my kit bag.
Right.
I feel like the more you drive, the more diverse, the better you will be at all the other racing.
So when are you up again racing the Legends cars?
So the next event is June 5th, which I believe is a Sunday. So 2 weekends back here at Fayetteville. Then we have another late June race. We have a really stacked July, and then we're off during August. He tries to, a lot of the tracks down here in the South try and give summer months off. So like Halifax, which is a couple hours north of here, they're going to take off July. Fayetteville's going to take off August. Kind of cut down on the heat casualties.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. It's I've got a pretty stacked July as well.
Right.
I got a pretty stacked June, not for racing, but next couple of months are going to be quite busy. Cool, man. Well, Adam, man, I really appreciate you being on. This has been fun. Had some good interaction. It's always good to talk to you. It's definitely always good to see you, especially in person, hang out with you. Hopefully, I'd come out June 5th, but I'm going to be at the beach having a few drinks and enjoying the sun. So
enjoy.
Forgive me for not being there.
Well, if you can put on your calendar, every year we do a big autocross charity event out at ZMAX. It's a 2-day event. This year it's in November. We've done it 4 years in a row. We basically get some rental cars. Last couple of years, we've got some V6 Camaros, and we do a driver shootout. People donate to take a run in the car. They get their name on like a little top gear leaderboard. By the end of the weekend, we do a little 8 driver shootout, single elimination, and it's fun on some like rental Camaros on fleet tires.
Yeah.
Last year, the 2 drivers in the final got to drive my Legends car on the autocross course. So I kind of offered that up. This year, we got something in the works that if you and the OSS boys can come out. One, it's a fun event. It's a 2-day. It's like a national tour, but it's local. Not a big deal.
Right.
And it's towards the end of the season, so everyone's not worried about being serious. So definitely put that out. That'd be cool to have you guys involved. We basically have run of the mill there, so we can make whatever happen. So if you're interested in bringing the guys out and maybe being a sponsor or just being, like a host, thing, we can bring you on, because CCR is really generous on letting us kind of, I wouldn't say run the show, but what we need to do.
All right. Well, my wife just said we'll be there, so you'll have to give me the details on it. We can talk
Absolutely.
offline with Josh and see how we can be involved in whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Cool. Good deal. Well, for everybody that's listening, there's a couple of upcoming events for us here at OSS. Got a couple of our operational group guys will be running at UMI's Team Cross June 17th and 18th. I know myself, Josh in the M86Z, and Tim in his 5th gen will be running Camaro Fest in Bowling Green in July. A bunch of us will be up at the UMI's Autocross Challenge July 22nd, 23rd. And then quite a few of us will be back up there, UMI at King of the Mountain 4.0, August 26th and 27th. If you've never been there, that's a spectacular event to come and hang out at. And on top of that, we've got the Clarksville Autocross Series that we're running out at Clarksville Motor Speedway. Upcoming events are June 12th, July 10th, which is an exhibition in conjunction with ASM and Tom O'Gorman. And then August 21st, September 25th, and then our finale, which will kind of be like a UMI King of the Mountain type deal, shootout under the lights, October 23rd. So we do have a lot of events coming up. So pretty busy year. Hoping to have a really good showing out there at Camaro Fest. But we do want to give a shout out to one of our OG drivers, Mark Gullivan. He went out this weekend at Road America for the Ultimate Streetcar Association event and driving Black Betty, part of Dragon Lady Racing. And he won the Outlaw class out there. So congrats to Mark. Good job there, bud. Way to represent a whole bunch of people there. So that's really about what we got going on. So Adam, man, again, I really appreciate you joining us, and appreciate all you do, particularly for RFH and giving back to those guys. Appreciate the invite out there to Charlotte, and hopefully we can get out there and support that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's really cool following you guys and the efforts you guys got, and hopefully we can bring one of those events to Fort Bragg, which has been long overdue.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, we're got to work on that. Got a couple of connections there, so you and I, we're going to work that. Try to shoot it for next spring. That way, we got plenty of time to plan it, get it on people's calendar, and we'll make it happen, dude.
Yeah, I think it'll be good for the community and definitely a whole lot of fun.
Yep. All right, brother. Be good. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Take care.